Hey guys, it is Nick here with our Nick's Topics Marvel What If topic video for today. And today, we're in the Infinity War zone, as I said in my recent update. Anyway, today is a very interesting topic that could have made for a slightly more dramatic Infinity War, but better endgame. What if the other half got snapped? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you know all the people that died in Infinity War, right? Well, of course you know if you watched Marvel. Come on now, we all know. Anyway, what if the other half of the heroes, specifically the heroes, got snapped? How would this affect the story? Well, it affects a lot more than you might think. And that's what we're going to be discussing. Alright, so let's get into it. We end Infinity War with the big snap, and Thanos retreats back to the garden place. Cap asks what just happened, and the first one to get snapped away is Thor. As puzzled as he looked in Infinity War, this just made things all the more reasonable and dramatic. Thor being the first one to go. And in Bucky's place, Cap, after seeing Thor die, he vanishes right along with him. Bucky seeing this and having... he's speechless. And in Groot's place, Rocket dies. Groot just says, "I am Groot," but we all know what he's thinking. He's distraught. And in place of Black Panther, Hawkeye would die. And then, for the rest of the heroes, Bruce Banner would die. Black Widow would die a movie early. Next would be War Machine in the place of Sam, or Falcon if you want to be specific. And then, meanwhile, on the rest of the planet, that's the heroes in Wakanda, but meanwhile, on the rest of the planet, with all the other half of the population getting vanished, on the heroes' side, Hawkeye dies instead of his family. Pepper Potts dies. And then, in Doctor Strange's place, Wong would die. I mean, not really much of a milestone there, but still. And in space, Captain Marvel would die, which would be very, very, very major, because she played a very keen part in protecting the universe. And meanwhile, on Titan, all the Guardians would survive, but two wouldn't make it. Nebula would die first, and then Iron Man, after already being badly injured in the fight with Thanos, falls to the ground. Spider-Man catches him, but Tony vanishes and dies right in his hands. Now what happens after? Who are the survivors? Well, Black Panther would live. The Guardians would live, all except Rocket, so Quill would be alive. Groot would be alive. And we'd get Drax, and Mantis. Bucky, as I said, would survive. Falcon, Sam if you want to be specific, would survive. Zuri would survive. Doctor Strange, which would be very, very good. Spider-Man would survive, so hey, there's that, but Tony dying a movie early, that would be really sad. Nick Fury would actually be alive. And Scarlet Witch would still be alive. Now, as for Ant-Man, people are questioning, well, why didn't he die? Because he was in the quantum realm, so he wasn't affected by the snap. Good thing is, whenever on his line, he's actually able to come back early from the quantum realm, since the people that were at the he's able to come back because Hank and the Wasp and everything, they weren't snapped away. So that's a good thing. Now, as for Thanos, how would he get figured out? No one would know that he was on the garden, so would he just live in peace? Well, I think that when he used the stones to destroy the stones, the Guardians would at least pick this up and go after him. But once figuring out that the snap is irreversible, since the stones are destroyed, Quill kills Thanos himself. Because, you know, he killed Gamora, and he wanted revenge, and he finally got revenge, but still a lot of people died. Now, how is the time travel going to happen? Ant-Man still has the idea to time travel. Without Tony, things are looking a little bleak and sad. Does this mean everything's just over? Well, on one hand, yes, that could be the end of things, but there is a possibility in the hands of Black Panther and Wakanda that they could do the time travel with the help of Ant-Man. But it would be a lot harder than it would be with Tony and everything, with less smarts at the hand, so to say. Now, how would anyone know where to get the stones? Well, for the Tesseract, Nick Fury would definitely know where that is, because, you know, he had experience in knowing about the Tesseract and everything back in the first Avengers. Now, a lot of the other stones, including the Power Stone, the Soul Stone, the Reality Stone, they would all be found thanks to the Guardians. And as for the Mind Stone, Nick Fury would also know about that. And, for obvious reasons, the Time Stone, Doctor Strange would be familiar with that all too well. Now, the time heist goes off. Everyone goes to get the stones to revive everyone that was killed by the snap. Making it sound like a Dragon Ball episode. Now, when we get to the Ancient One, things go a lot easier whenever talking to her, because I feel like Strange being there, this would affect things on the term that he would get the stone with, like, little to no trouble, because the Ancient One would see him as, like, he was worthy, and I feel like he would get the stone a lot easier. Sorry if I stopped there for a second. Anyway, for the Soul Stone, this is where things become a problem. It would have to be a couple that loves each other. So, I think that Ant-Man would sacrifice himself, and the Wasp, sorry for the picture, would get the stone, and that just feels like the most logical way, because other than that, they would never get the Soul Stone. Anyway, the time heist is completed, and a vibranium gauntlet is created to hold all the stones in. Now we get to a problem. Who's going to be able to do the snap? Well, Groot can do it, most likely, but he is a kid. If he was an adult and, you know, didn't basically kill himself in the first Guardians movie, this wouldn't be a problem, but it is risky. Very risky. But there is Bucky with his vibranium arm. Still, it could render it... He'd have to get another one, but that's no problem. And it is also a tone to make up for everything that he's done. So I think that Bucky would be the most likable candidate in this situation, using the big snap to revive everyone that was killed. And I think that's where we would call things for the movie, with a happy ending. No Thanos fight. For one particular reason. There's no Nebula, because she was snapped away. So, that would make Endgame very, very much shorter, and honestly probably have a different name for the movie. And a lot more Avengers would be alive here thanks to this, which would make things better. And that's where we end things. Now, what do you guys think? Do you think things could have gone down this way? What do you think could have happened had the other half of the population and the heroes got snapped instead? I think it looks for a better ending for the Endgame movie. And like I said, could make Endgame something completely different in the grand scheme of things. I honestly also think this is just a better ending for the movie, a happier ending, with a lot more Avengers living here, and honestly could go the way of my whole, like, you know, by the time Spider-Man No Way Home happens, all the Avengers are pretty much alive for it. But yeah, that's pretty much where we call things, and this is one of the last Marvel what-ifs, I think, that are gonna happen. But until then, this is Nick's Topics. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you on the next one.